Hey, g'day guys, this is AussieStig. Today we're checking out these brand new load cell pedals from SimAlien, based out of the Czech Republic. We'll be doing a quick unboxing and checking out each pedal as they come out of the boxes. After that, we'll move on to the pedal plate that was supplied with these pedals. We'll assemble that and we'll throw it on the Playseat, and we'll go ahead and put them through their paces here in the AussieStig studios. Alright guys, let's check out the throttle pedal first. The first thing that grabs me is the almost fluoro orange powder coating on the pedal arms, and the rest of the design is powder coated in what I would say is a battleship grey or a very dark grey. Even the throttle return spring is powder coated grey. And looking at the pedal face, if I just spin it round to the front, we notice the little SimAlien logo down the bottom here. And then we have two screws holding the pedal face onto what is the adjustment bracket for vertical adjustment. I notice there's no countersunk holes other than the ones that the screws are in now, so that means the pedal face is not laterally adjustable. That shouldn't be an issue, because when you're mounting it to a profile rig or the supplied pedal plate, which we'll be looking at a little bit later, the lateral adjustment should be there for that. If I turn it round to the side, we can see two slots at the top of the pedal arm here, and loosening those 4 bolts off either side, we should be able to raise and lower the pedal face by about 2 centimeters or 3/4 of an inch. Looking at it further, we see there's a pedal throw adjustment bar, which is pretty standard, and there's an extra hole here just above the connecting rod, which tells me that if we raise this connecting rod up to the next hole, that should give us a stiffer throttle pedal. And for pedal arm angle, we have the standard adjustment here with this curved slot, and then longitudinal adjustments here with the slots in the bottom. Just spin it around one more time, and you can see here the bracket inside the pedal arms that allows the vertical adjustment. We have a preload adjustment here, and at the rear of the pedal we see a mini jack out, which goes to the mini jack in on the rear of the brake pedal. Overall, a fairly standard design in that sense. It does remind me of other pedals that are on the market that look quite similar. Picking the pedal up, just bring it a little bit closer, you can see this is a load cell pedal. Actually, all 3 pedals are load cell pedals, and yeah, looking at the construction, these pedals look quite clean and crisp overall. For the throttle pedal, there are a couple of extra add-ons, one of them being a full height pedal, more like a NASCAR type of pedal face. And now I see the extra hole down here, that would be for one of these bolts or an extra bolt to fasten that pedal face on there like that. That's a nice little extra that comes with the pedal. Another add-on that comes with the pedal is this little Alien branded footrest, and what that does is you bolt it on the side here, and that stops your foot from slipping off the pedal. Also a nice little extra. I don't really see that very often on sim racing pedals. SimAlien's added that in, and it does make it look a little bit more unique. And it has a practical use as well, so that's quite handy. Yeah, so not a bad looking pedal at all. And now we'll just move on to the clutch pedal. Looking at it straight away, the clutch pedal is quite a bit larger than the throttle pedal. That stands to reason, as there's the fulcrum mechanism at the rear here, which is necessary to get that bite point feel. Same thing on the front, the little Alien logo and the same screws, so this design element is carried over to all 3 pedals. Looking at it side on, you can see the pedal arm's got a slightly larger design. It's got more depth to it than the throttle pedal has. Again, we have the preload adjustment and another hole just above, which I'm assuming we can use to add more resistance to the clutch mechanism. And we see here the clutch travel adjustment, and then the same adjustment for pedal arm angle and longitudinal adjustments. We turn him around. At the rear we have the mini jack out, which goes to the rear panel of the brake pedal. Definitely a slightly larger pedal, same type of load cell in here. It's a decent looking pedal, there's no doubts about it. The laser cutting is quite clean, there's no sharp edges to it, and it does look fairly cool with this colour combination. The rest of the components are also what you would expect from a mid to high end pedal set. Overall, nice looking pedal. Once again, the adjustment here for the pedal face height, if you want to adjust that up and down. Looking at this pedal, it seems to be quite a bit taller than the throttle pedal already. If we just put the throttle pedal next to it quickly, yeah, you can see that the throttle pedal is quite a bit lower than the clutch pedal. We can compensate with this pedal being able to be raised up, so not really an issue. And I'll just put them face to face. In terms of size, I would say the pedal faces are identical. It's just that the throttle pedal arm is lower, but other than that, the design's very similar. And I see what they've done with the little cutouts here. They've tried to make it look a bit more individual, a bit more unique in terms of their shapes instead of a standard geometric shape, which does add a bit of character to the pedals as well. Okay, so that was the clutch. Now we'll just move on to the most important pedal, which is the brake pedal. Straight away, the brake pedal is by far the largest pedal of the three. The mechanism carries on quite a bit further than the other two pedals. Adjustment wise, it's all exactly the same. Just spin it around to the front. You can see the pedal face is quite a bit wider. We do have the same situation here. These two screws belong right here where they are. There's no other way to adjust the pedal. You could flip it over, that's one thing you could do. You could just rotate it 180 degrees and then that pedal would be further away from the throttle pedal, which would help in adjustments if that's an issue for some people with their rigs. Looking at it side on, again, different cutouts on the pedal arms and then the vertical adjustment. And then we see here we have a stacked elastomer set, also something that we've seen before on other pedals. One thing I do notice is that the preload spring is at the rear of the pedal in place of the front, which is a departure from most standard pedals. All the adjustments look similar. There is a pedal throw stopper. I don't think that is relevant. The pedal arm should not be able to travel as far as the throttle or the clutch pedal can. I do notice here that the slot is different. Now we have a series of drilled out holes instead of one slot. And that's obviously because this is taking all the force from heavy braking, so having these drilled holes gives it a locked position. Once you've got your angle, you lock it in and then you don't have to worry that the bolts are going to slide in the groove that's been put there. The housing at the rear of the pedal is separate to the main housing where the pedal arm's attached to. I don't think I've ever seen that before, that there's two sections or two separate components making up the pedal base, and we spin it around to the back. We can see there's a USB-B out and then the two mini jacks in for the clutch and the throttle. It's quite a heavy pedal and there's certainly a much larger load cell within the housing. This is a little bit unusual for me. I've never seen that before, that the two sections of the pedal are separated by a gap, but otherwise a nice looking pedal. Again, crisp finish, no really rough edges or sharp edges anywhere. I'm expecting it to do what it says on the tin. So that's a quick spin around the pedals, guys. Next up we'll check out the pedal plate that was supplied with the Simalian pedals. We'll assemble that and we'll throw it on the playseat and put the pedals through their paces and see how they perform. First thing we'll do is check if the Simalian pedals match up with the Playseat pedal deck slots, and by the look of it they don't. Just having a look at the different options here, there's not really anywhere where I can actually mount these pedals to the Playseat. So what we'll have to do is use the pedal plate and the heel rest that came with the pedal set. So this is the pedal plate that comes with the Simalian pedals. It's about 4mm thick, and additionally Simalian also supplies a heel rest which matches the pedal plate, and that fits on here like this. And with the help of 4 bolts we can fasten this to the pedal plate and then move it back and forward as we need it. Another thing that we'll be using is some aluminium risers. These risers are going to be used to raise the pedal plate up off the original Playseat pedal deck and give us the clearance underneath to be able to mount the pedals and adjust them as we want. We've got the 4 risers in position on the pedal deck, and what I've done is gone ahead and added the 3 pedals to the pedal plate with the nuts and bolts that were supplied, and I've done that because of the fact that access is limited underneath the pedal plate once it's on top of the risers, and after that we can go ahead and fine tune or fine adjust the pedal positions as I want. Just a quick note, this bolt on both corners is not accessible once the pedals are in their positions. I've left the pedals loose to actually be able to tighten these bolts before going ahead and adjusting the pedals. The heel rest has been fitted to the pedal plate as well, so now we're ready to adjust the pedals. As with a lot of these types of pedals, you just undo these two bolts here and then you can actually change the angle of the pedal face. And then once you get it to where you want, you just simply cinch it down again. Just before we hook up the mini jacks to the rear of the pedals, I'll go through my custom settings. I've set the pedals up the way I like to drive with them. Most of the settings I've used are on the firmer side. I don't really like a soft throttle pedal or a brake pedal. First thing we did was move the connecting rod arm from the lower position to the higher position, which gives us a firmer throttle pedal. Next thing I did was swap out the softer throttle pedal spring for the harder version that SimAlien supplies with these pedals. And the last adjustment I made was to the position of the bump stop bar on the throttle pedal. I moved it from the middle position, which is the default position coming from the SimAlien factory, and put it on the first position, which gives us the shortest amount of pedal travel to give me the maximum throttle control when I'm sim racing. Next up, we'll move on to the adjustments I made to the clutch pedal. With the clutch pedal, I made similar adjustments as per the throttle pedal. I've relocated the connecting rod from the first position on the pedal arm to the higher position, which gives us a firmer pedal feel straight away. The second thing I did was swap out the softer clutch spring for the harder one that SimAlien supplies with these pedals. And lastly, I left the bump stop bar in the middle position. I'm happy with the amount of travel that the pedal has with the bump stopper in the middle. Alright, the last thing we're looking at is the brake pedal, and that'll be the final adjustments I make before we go ahead and do some driving. SimAlien does ship the pedals with the soft elastomers as standard fitted to their brake pedal stack. I find that way too soft. I can push it quite far with my hand and that's just too soft for me. And SimAlien gives us an extra set of medium and hard elastomers. Although if we look at the packaging, they're obviously labelled medium and hard, but once they're out of the plastic bag, then it would be easy to lose track of what's what. Just be mindful of that when you're swapping out the elastomers. You might want to mark one just so you know which is which. The last thing we might adjust is the preload spring on the brake pedal, as SimAlien also supplies a thicker and harder preload spring, so we could possibly be swapping that one out as well. We'll just see how it goes with the feel of the pedals once we swap out the elastomers. Definitely a harder brake feel than the soft elastomers were. Now we'll check out the hard elastomers and see how they work. Firmer pedal again. Yeah, it's firmer than the mediums, and have to get used to this hinged load cell mechanism. The brake pedal now matches the firmness of the other two pedals. The only thing I can check out now is the preload spring to see if that makes a difference as well. That to me feels about right. I can get to the end of the preload spring. Now we've got the pedals all set up and adjusted the way I like to drive with. I'll go through all three of them and I'll give my feedback on how they feel. Starting with the throttle. I have the throttle now very firm. Although it's not that much effort to push it with my leg, I can easily modulate the amount of throttle I'm applying in-game with this feel, and the short travel helps me a lot when I'm racing. And the clutch pedal, again quite firm, firmer than probably most people would like. That's the way I like my clutch to be set up, that it has some pressure to it. Lastly, we have the brake pedal, which is fitted with the hard elastomers and the harder preload spring. I can feel definite 25mm or an inch of travel in total before I hit the preload spring limit. So all in all, they feel pretty good. I'm really looking forward to buttoning up the mini jack cables on the rear of the pedals and then hooking it up to the PC and to get stuck into the driving part of this review. Okay, so this is the NASCAR pedal face, and we're just giving that a try, just see how it feels on the foot. I like the feel of it under my boot because it stretches almost up to my toes, which covers the ball of my foot as well, and that gives me good support. I might even just drive with this. I'll dispense with the shorter pedal. I tend to like this feeling a bit better. One thing I'll do is add the included footrest that came with the Simalian pedals to the side of the throttle pedal. Yeah, that feels pretty good. I like the footrest. It does keep your foot centered on the pedal. Yeah, I think I'll drive my GT races with this type of setup. This is also good for Formula cars. Quite happy with how that feels. We'll stick with this configuration for now, and I'll swap out the pedal faces when I want to do some heel and toe racing. Okay, these are the mini jack plugs, gold plated by the looks of it. We'll see if we can't route them through the pedal plate and just make it look a little bit neater in terms of installation. So we've routed the mini jack to mini jack cables through the slots at the front of the Playseat pedal deck. We've done a little bit of cable management this way. Looks a bit neater. Next thing is to hook it up to the PC, and then we'll get on with the driving. Just before we head off onto the circuit, we'll have a quick look at the DI View software, which is used to calibrate the Simalian pedals. Simalian does tell me they're working on their own software. That is still a little while off. You just have to go into the settings here. You just click on the Access button and then View Raw Data. The pedal that's highlighted, you can see the minimum travel in the raw data. For me, it's about 6,800 or so. With the pedal fully depressed, 16,700, something like that. And then all you do is go to the Access button once again, hit Calibration, and then add the two values that you have. So in my case, it was 7,400 and 16,700. You add those two values together and then divide them by 2, and that becomes your center value, and that gives you a linear calibration for the pedal. So pretty simple, and you just do that for all 3 pedals. It's done within a few minutes and then you're ready to go. Okay guys, here we are on the grid at Le Mans in an Orica LMP2 car, and we're about to do an AI race against about 16 other cars. I've been enjoying my time with these Simalian pedals from the Czech Republic. I've been using them now for about 3 to 4 weeks. So far they haven't missed a beat. I haven't had any issues with EMI or connection issues or mapping issues into the titles that I use. What we'll be doing today is doing a couple of laps in this talk and drive session, and I'll give you my impressions on how the pedals are performing. After that, we'll head over to final thoughts, and at the end of this video there's a couple of bonus laps in the Mercedes Sauber at Kyalami in South Africa. If you want to hang around for that, be sure to check that out. Let's get stuck into the driving part of this review and see how these Simalian pedals stack up to the competition. Yeah, so let's talk about the pedals individually. The throttle pedal is quite responsive. It's not as hard as I would like it to be. That has to do mainly with the replacement spring Simalian supplies with these pedals. It is definitely a thicker, harder spring. Because the action's so smooth on the throttle pedal itself, there's very little resistance. Other than that, the throttle's very responsive. I have the throttle set up with the least amount of travel. That's on the first bump stop setting. You don't have to worry about the bump stop moving. It's locked into the position once you've decided where to put it. And with this short pedal throw that I'm using, I can modulate the throttle much better that way. Next up, we'll look at the clutch pedal. The clutch pedal's got a good bite point to it when you're stationary. You can definitely feel the bite point when you're pressing the clutch pedal in. When you get moving and you're doing some heel and toe driving, and it's quite frantic, especially when you're changing down about 3 or 4 gears within a few seconds, that bite point tends to disappear. Again, I have the clutch pedal set up as firm as I can get it. The mechanism's quite smooth, so even though it's a firm pedal, it's easy to push. I set it above the default setting, which is the lower hole in the pedal arm. I moved the connecting rod up to the higher setting, which gives me a little bit more firmness to the pedal. And then we move on to the brake pedal, which is probably the most important pedal of them all. Simalian uses a stacked elastomer set up with a preload spring at the rear. They do supply a firmer preload spring, as well as the soft elastomers. You have a medium and hard elastomer set. One thing I would say is that they're all the same colour. If you're swapping out your elastomers for the pedals, you might want to put some type of identifying mark on each set so you're not mixing them up when you're swapping out all your elastomers. What I do find is that the initial feel of the pedal is soft at the start because you have to push through the preload spring, and even with the preload completely wound down to its maximum firmness, the travel's about 15 to 20 millimetres or half an inch to 3/4 of an inch before you actually hit the elastomers. It feels quite natural. The one unusual feature on the brake pedal is the hinged load cell mechanism. I haven't seen that before in sim racing. It's quite a unique approach. The rear housing is floating, so it's not actually connected to the main housing of the brake pedal. And what happens is you push the brake in, and once you engage the load cell, the actual connection between the two sections of the brake pedal that's moving, and that's what measures the amount of force that you're applying. I don't remember seeing anything like that on other sim racing pedals. I think it's a unique idea for measuring brake force. I am used to very firm brake pedals which have almost no travel, but this one does have a little bit of travel to it. But I would say the amount of travel feels about right for probably most cars that you'd find on a race circuit. F1 would be a very firm pedal, but other than that, most GT cars and other race classes have a softer brake pedal with a bit more travel to it. All in all, I think the brake pedal works quite well. And combined with the other two pedals, yeah, it's a decent set of sim racing pedals. Sim Alien also offers different pedal faces. You can have more alien inspired pedals or race inspired pedals like the ones I'm using. They also have stock friendly ones. Yeah, so quite pleased with the pedals, how they drive, and they've stood up to a lot of bouncing around on the D-Box Playseat motion system that we have in our studio. I do like the fact that they employ mini jack to mini jack connections, which is a nice direct connection to each pedal. I find the cables they supplied with the pedals are a bit too long. I don't really find the need for a cable that's about 30 centimetres long when you could do it with half that, and it would look a lot neater as well in terms of cable management. I'm a real stickler for that. I really like everything to be as neat as possible. Yeah, so that's enough of talking about the pedals. What we'll do now is jump into our final thoughts for these pedals. So these are my final thoughts for the Sim Alien Race Edition pedals. I really do like the cool orange and grey colour scheme. I know they remind a lot of people of similar types of pedals that are already on the market, but that doesn't detract from a few clever engineering things that Sim Alien have come up with. One being the hinged load cell mechanism on the brake pedal. The mini jack to mini jack is also nothing new right now in sim racing. There are other pedals that do that, but the implementation has been pretty well spot on. And I do like the feel on all three pedals. They're all quite responsive and linear when I'm using them. They're competitively priced, and they do come with a few extras that you don't have to worry about. If you want to swap out the clutch and throttle pedal springs, you can swap out the preload spring if you want a firmer preload. You can swap out the elastomers in the stack, which gives you a very soft feel. That's one thing I had to note. The standard soft elastomers that come with the Sim Alien pedals are extremely soft. I mean, we're talking road car soft, and the medium ones just a step up from there. They're a little bit firmer. And then onto the hard ones, the hard elastomers are what I'm using. I don't really care too much for softer elastomers on brake pedals for sim racing. After all, we are sim racing and trying to replicate real world forces in real world race cars. The load cells seem to be quite responsive. The brake pedal's about 130 kilos, max pressure at the pedal, I believe. Installing these pedals was also quite easy. They do supply a separate pedal plate with a heel rest as well. The finishes on the pedals are of a good quality. There's no rough edges or blemishes or imperfections on the powder coating. The orange and grey does look very cool. Earlier in the first look at the pedals, as they came out of the boxes, we had a look at the brake pedal. I mentioned that the brake pedal face wasn't adjustable, except for maybe flipping it over 180 degrees, and that's what I've done. I find that gives me a good distance from the throttle pedal to the brake pedal when I'm doing heel and toe racing. And not only that, the spacing seems to work well for GT cars as well. You could probably put them a little bit further apart if you wanted to, but I'm quite happy with how they are now. So with all the driving, I've been doing a lot of races. Actually won my championship race on the AussieStig online series with these pedals, so that's a good omen. Sim Alien does tell me that they're working on their own software for their pedals. That's not quite ready yet, but they say that's nearing completion. I don't have any hassles with using DiView. It's pretty simple to set up. It's just a matter of getting the base values right. So the lowest value plus the highest value, divide it by 2, and then you end up with the middle value, which gives you a linear response to all three pedals. If you want to set some curves in-game, you can use the in-game settings in most titles now to change the brake curve on your car. I'm driving the Mercedes Sauber at Kyalami with the heel and toe. Great experience. Fantastic driving that type of old school car on a old school F1 track. Kyalami's got such a nice flow to it, and Automobilista has come along leaps and bounds in terms of sim racing titles. I'm really enjoying using some of their cars and circuits right now. The sense of being in the car, shifting gears, heel and toeing, and then flying around a circuit like Kyalami, that's what you do it for, guys. I'm happy to say the Sim Alien pedals are a decent set of sim racing pedals. I do hope you all enjoyed this review, and please support the channel and hit the like and subscribe buttons so I can bring you some more cool content, and hang around for the end of the review. There's a bonus out lap and then a flying lap of Kyalami. Hope to see you all again in the next one. Stay tuned for more to come from AussieStig.